I was starting to see good clients who would just kind of fall off because every time they'd reach out, I'd be like, I can't do something this Friday. Like I'm booked out 2 Fridays in advance of this. And so that was the kernel of where it came from. It was, I can't serve my clients the best way by just being me. And I go on vacation and I have to tell them, hey, I can't do anything for you this week, so you got to find somebody else. I feel like I'm not providing the best service for them. That was really the foundation that the team model was adopted for Jon Loves Dogs. It was providing a better service for the clients and for the dogs, giving them that familiarity. Now they have 2 to 3 walkers just around the clock through the year rather than, random people from apps or the next door neighbor or whoever. So I do think it's, for us at least, it's a better model to have a team.
Welcome to the Pet Business Hiring Podcast. I'm your host, Doug the Dog Guy, and today I am joined by Jon Eckrich. He is the owner and founder of Jon Loves Dogs in New Jersey. He's been in business for about a year now, and he already has a team of pet sitters and dog walkers. So I'm really excited to talk to him and learn about his journey today out of the corporate world and then building his pet care team. Just as a reminder, the Pet Business Hiring Podcast is sponsored by Dogco Launch and my own Pawsitive Hiring Academy. So you can see more about them down in the podcast notes below. But with that, Jon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Doug, thank you so much for having me. Like I was telling you just before we started recording, you've been, a big hero of mine. I've consumed all your content. So to be talking with you and be guesting on your program is awesome. I'm so flattered. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for watching my YouTube videos and reaching out to be on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you. I don't know much about your story, to be honest. So I would love for you to kind of take me back to the tail end of your corporate career. And let's talk about how and why you left the corporate world and started your own pet sitting and dog walking business.
Sure, absolutely. So I think like a lot of people that get into this business, I had grown up with, we never had fewer than 2 dogs in the house. My mom was just a fierce animal lover, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, the biggest, like most difficult to control dogs you can imagine. That was my childhood. So that was my background. When I got out of college, I went to college for history and the aim was to be a teacher. I started my first few student teaching gigs and realized I'm not very good at this. I don't feel like this is in my wheelhouse. So I made an abrupt left turn into contingency recruiting, what most folks now would call agency recruiting, as a headhunter. And I ended up doing that for about 10 years before I moved into internal HR teams and ended up leading teams there. As I mentioned, I've always loved dogs, hence, Jon Loves Dogs, very, very creative company name. So when my career in the contingency agency recruiting world ended, that was caused by COVID. The company shut down. So I found myself with some free time and I took another left turn and said, I'm going to become a dog groomer. So I did that. I went into Petco's Grooming Academy. I became a professional dog groomer for about a year. And then, once COVID started to slow down, that was when I moved back into recruiting, moved to in-house recruiting. For the past 4 or 5 years or so, since the tail end of COVID, I had been doing that. I was at a senior management level. So I had a team of 11 to 13 recruiters all across the Northeast, from Boston to DC, lots of travel, a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure to perform. And so I would like to say that I engineered one day I'm going to start a pet sitting business and it's going to be great. And here are my goals. But it didn't happen that way at all. It was instead a situation where just over a year ago, I was laid off from my position. And at that point, I was battling a lot of professional burnout, just very tired of the stress to perform, the travel cycle. So I went to my fiance at the time and I was like, how do you feel about, I'm just going to take a few months off, just take a few months off, go hiking with my dog and kind of hang out, cook lots of food, get my mind out of the corporate world. And she was like, that sounds good, but why don't you just jump on Rover and hang out with some dogs? And at this point I had already been volunteering. After I pet grooming, I wanted to keep working with animals in some fashion. So I was volunteering on the weekends with a a rescue called St. Hubert's Animal Welfare Center in Madison, New Jersey. I still do that to this day. And I said to my fiance, I said, that's a pretty good idea. Like I'll jump on Rover, I'll set my prices as low as they'll go, and I'll just do like a few dog walks per day and kind of work that in. And sure enough, my book just exploded pretty much immediately. I was at full-time hours like within a month of doing that. And I'm like, okay, I guess I should raise my prices. So I did
Wow.
that. I raised my prices a few times. And I think, to be clear too, that's a lot to do with my location in Northern Jersey here. We do a lot of work in Montclair and West Orange, and that tends to be where a lot of folks who commute into Manhattan live. So they're leaving their pets each day and they're looking for someone to come in and, walk their dog or come through in the evening if they get stuck in the city, that sort of thing. And so it grew very quickly right away. And I hit a point about 2 months in where I hadn't even formed an LLC because I was just not considering doing this very seriously. It was always going to be, I'll do it for like 3 months and then, start getting back to the corporate gig and find another job. And I remember sitting down with my fiance and going, I think I could spin a business out of this. Like, I think this could be a quote unquote real job. And I just remember looking at her face, and credit to her, she was completely supportive through the whole thing. But she just looked at me and she went, okay, so I'm marrying a professional dog walker. I was like, is that okay? Are you down with that? And she's like, what the heck? Let's do it. So that was kind of how it started. I started my LLC. Through this year, I raised my prices several times, I think 3 times, to the point where I was like, okay, I can't keep raising prices every quarter. Like, I need to get some stability for my clients that I have. And that was sort of how I fell into it. The first half of this year, as you said, I'm newer to the pet sitting game, certainly compared to folks such as yourself, but probably a lot of people that are listening to this as well. So I kind of just fell into it. It exploded. And I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love it. There are days when I wake up and I'm just like, I can't believe I get to do this. Like, this is amazing. Instead of preparing to give like a presentation to a C-level person about why we need to spend this amount of money on this new tool, I wake up and I get to talk to clients whom I love and would probably be friends with outside of this business, and go hang out with their dogs whom I also love and would also probably be friends with outside this business. So it's been wonderful. And that's essentially how I got my start. It was kind of getting back into it from a corporate career that just felt like it was sucking me dry. And I was giving everything to sort of just slotting into this pet sitting business organically and being like, this is somehow way better than anything I designed for myself, just accidentally falling into this. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
What does it take to scale your pet care business? My name's Michelle Klein. I'm the founder of Dog Co Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. And I want to send you a case study of how one of my clients took his monthly revenue in just 1 year from $17,000 to over $73,000. And yes, that is monthly revenue, not annual. To get this case study and to learn more about Dogco and what we do and how we help companies, go to dogcolaunch.com/case study.
Man, that's a wild, crazy journey there. It's amazing that it's happened so quickly, and I love seeing the arc in your story with, COVID and then being a groomer and then going back to the corporate world and just knowing in your heart that maybe wasn't the right path for you, and that you have what it takes to be a business owner yourself and to go down this path. I think that's really amazing. And that joy that you talk about never goes away. I've been doing this 11 years and I still wake up and have to pinch myself. Is this real? Am I really doing this for a living, or am I going to have to go get a quote unquote real job? And I'm like, no, I'm 11 years in, I'm still doing it. So I hope that never goes away for you either.
Yeah, I love it. Truly. I'm not exaggerating either when I say, there are some days you wake up, it's especially up here in the Northeast, it's snowing or it's 20 degrees out and you're like, but then I'm like, it's not that bad. I get to go like walk a husky and see how much she loves 20-degree weather. That's amazing. Like, that's so cool. I love doing that. So it's great, really.
Man, I think it's so cool that you have so much previous experience with hiring and recruiting. I know for myself and a lot of other pet business owners that I talk to, that experience is very limited. When I brought on my first team members for Bad to the Bone, I had never hired anyone before. I had never managed anyone before. So I really had to learn a lot of things the hard way. And it sounds like you already had a lot of those hard lessons kind of figured out before starting your business. Did you know when you filed for your LLC to start Jon Loves Dogs, did you have an idea that you would grow a team one day?
So you're going to see a common thread running through with how my business goes, where my fiance saying something or suggesting something to me like turns on a light bulb. But you would think that it would have been common sense, like, oh yeah, I'll hire for it. Like I come from a background of hiring. I've been a leader. I can just do that with my own business. But it didn't. For me, like up until probably April or May, it was always going to be a one-man show. It was just going to be, yeah, I'll roll solo doing this. That's how I like to do it. Like I'll do all the work myself. And she was always kind of nudging me, just subtly being like, have you considered, hiring a team member or two? Or like you've got this whole career in recruiting. You've been a leader, you know how to do these things. And I was always like, no, I think solo is going to be for me. So it honestly didn't until I just hit a critical point, which I think with the industry being what it is, it feels to me, at least in my own little bubble in the Northeast, like it's kind of exploding. Like pet sitting is starting to become, I mean, the apps are probably their marketing push. The big apps like, Rover and Wag are probably having something to do with that. Yet it never occurred to me that it would really grow to be something beyond me. Like I started looking at alternate revenue streams, like doing retail stuff on the website with like pet themed, clothing and things like that before I considered bringing on a team. So, sometimes I have to just rely on my better half to point out the direction that I should be going in. So big thanks to her for pushing me there. And I think that it kind of hit me that I needed to hire when I was just consistently booked out for like the next 2 to 3 weeks, no matter the time, even after having raised my prices several times. I was starting to see good clients who would just kind of fall off because every time they'd reach out, I'd be like, I can't do something this Friday. Like I'm booked out 2 Fridays in advance of this. And so that was the kernel of where it came from. It was, I can't serve my clients the best way by just being me. And, I go on vacation and I have to tell them, hey, I can't do anything for you this week, so you got to find somebody else. Sorry. And that also was something where I'm like, I feel like I'm not providing the best service for them. So that was really the foundation that the team model was adopted for Jon Loves Dogs. It was providing a better service for the clients and for the dogs, giving them that familiarity. Now they have 2 to 3 walkers just around the clock through the year rather than random people from apps or the next door neighbor or whoever. So I do think for us, at least, it's a better model to have a team. And what ended up happening was probably another thing. I'm sure there are common streaks for most pet sitters that I've experienced, but I decided to hire and it became, yeah, this is a good idea. We're going to hire, to holy crap, like I have to hire right now because I'm working like 130 hours a week. My relationship is starting to fall apart. I'm not sleeping at home. I mean, there were a couple of weeks where just immediately prior to my first hire starting, where I was in Time to Pet and I was like, I'm going to enable clocks for myself because I want to see actually how many hours I'm working. And it was like 142 hours per week, 120 hours in a week, 100. I mean, I would be going from overnights in the morning directly to dog walking and hourly sitting. I would come home for like an hour and a half, cook dinner, sit for 15 minutes with my fiance, and then I'm off doing nighttime walks into another overnight. So I was like, this is something where if I were just doing this as a living, I would have to be like a road vagabond living out of my car or something. Like I can't, There's not even a point to having an apartment or a house because I'm just never there. So it was really like, God, I need help yesterday. When is this person starting? So that was kind of how, again, there's a common theme of like every move we make where with Jon Loves Dogs, we decide to do something and I'm like, oh crap, I need to do this like yesterday. It needs to happen right now. We need to get it done because we can't sustain this. And that was sort of how I started the company and then fell into the team-based model. And in hindsight, those things have been the right move. I'm so much happier having a team than I was not having a team. So for sure, it's been the right step for us.
I can relate with so much of what you just said. When I first started hiring, I was so busy doing back-to-back walks and drop-in visits all day, every day, and then overnights every night that I had a condo that I ended up selling, and I literally lived out of my car, going from overnight to overnight for over 2 years. Which at the time I loved. Thinking back on it now, I'm like, I don't think I could do that now at this point in my life.
Right.
It's kind of crazy to think about. But at the time, I was 19, 20, 21 years old doing that. And I was able to put all that money that I would have been paying on a mortgage or rent, into stocks and investing. And that's really, really set me up for a good path now in my 30s. But it's not sustainable. It is really not sustainable to live your life that way. And that is what woke me up to the fact that I needed to go team-based. And I even had a couple team members, while I was doing that, but I wasn't utilizing them correctly. And I was not really optimizing how I was doing scheduling and all this other kinds of things. So I'm just saying I can relate with you a lot on that. Take me to when you brought on your first team member. When did you bring them on? And I would love to know, did your previous recruiting experience in the corporate world hurt you or help you with bringing on pet sitters and dog walkers for your team?
Sure. So I brought my first person on, I believe it was the first week of June. And I hired 2 people right away, pretty much back to back. I brought them on. I would say generally my experience it's definitely overwhelmingly been helpful. Just knowing how to write a job ad. I've written so many job ads through my career. I mean, hundreds. At this point, it's just, I can whip one up and, without even using AI for edits, I could probably write one in like 10, 15 minutes and have it do fairly well. Interviewing, that's another one. I feel like a lot of interviewing is just getting repetitions, getting into the interviews, doing them. You get to do enough interviews as a hiring manager that you're probably going to be able to tell within like 5 to 10 minutes if someone is hired or not. And, that's not always right. I've hired some people where I'm like, man, how did I not see some of these red flags? And I've been more hesitant on some people where I've been like, man, this person was fantastic. Like, why did I not just pull the trigger right away? So I think it definitely helped me with those things. Anything that's really repetition focused. So especially with interviewing, I think the drawback specifically of being in the corporate world with regards to hiring is if you're with a large enough organization and so that's basically what I was laser focused on recruiting specifically. So that's, I worked within an HR team, but what I was focused on was enticing people, being proactive and reaching out to them, getting them interested in the company, selling them into the role, and then kind of managing the process from there and then handing off to an HR generalist to do onboarding. So if you're in that specific kind of structure, that sort of siloing when you're owning your own business can really create some blinders for you. And that was certainly what happened to me. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I know how to hire people, but I actually don't know how to hire. Like, what do I do once I'm hiring them? I need an offer letter. Where do I get that from? Like, where do I go to get an offer letter? Like, I can't just write this up. Do I need a lawyer? Do I need an HR consultant to do this for me? So even just doing stuff like that, once I decided to hire, my experience took me up to the offer and negotiating the offer and all that stuff I was super comfortable with. And then I hit the offer letter and I was like, okay, I need to get an offer letter. I need to get an onboarding packet. Like, what does my state need? What do I need tax-wise from these people? And all of those things I just had a general familiarity with. Like, I would know how to go into our applicant tracking system when I was in the corporate world and see like where they were with regards to complete forms. But when you're doing it for your own business, you are the last line. I can't go ask my boss like, hey, can you let legal know that we need this form? I have to go do that myself. So it would be, lots of chat GPT usage, lots of relying on our HR system, which we use Gusto. So that was another, thank you, Doug, for pointing me in that direction. That was another tip I got from you. I eventually figured all that stuff out. And I think that, I mean, I don't know what it would be like coming from the other direction where you know all of the onboarding aspects of it, but haven't really done a lot of interviewing or job ad posting or that sort of thing. But I think that I benefited from coming to it with the experience that I had. I mean, I hope maybe I've made a horrible legal or tax mistake, and that's something I'm gonna be dealing with next year. I don't know, but I think we're
You better
okay.
knock on wood right now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Please. That's yeah. But I think so that set me up really to the point where I know what red flags to look for. I know what questions that I want to ask in the interview. And I know the kinds of people from my leadership experience that I vibe well with, that I work well with, and the kinds of people who I can be great employees, but I just don't mesh with. So, and that's more of an ambiguous thing. That's not like, oh, I do better with people from this avenue of life than this avenue. It's more just having a conversation with them and like, do we share a sense of humor? Are we able to cut the BS and kind of be real about what's going on? Or are they going to treat me like their boss? Because I'm much better when I can just talk to someone one-on-one as a human being versus, hey, I'm your boss and I'm telling you what to do and this is what you have to do. So it's really, that's what the interview process is for me. It's check on those red flags. Like, are they showing up on time? It seems so common sense, but I've seen in my career so many recruiters who will jump through hoops to excuse some obvious red flags only to get bitten later on. And that's a huge one. Showing up on time. Like if you're a minute late, okay, no big deal. You jumped on the call a minute late. If you're 6 minutes late, like they better have an unbelievably good interview because that's almost a non-starter for me. And if they no-show, I don't care if they're the greatest pet sitter on the planet. If they've been working, I don't care if they're a veterinarian and they are an absolute dog whisperer. If I can't have someone no-show a dog walk or a pet sit, I can't have it. So that's non-starter right away. No-shows are inexcusable red flag. And after that, you just let them know, like, hey, it's not a fit. Best of luck in the future. Others they're mostly common sense things, right? Like, are they prepared? Are they sitting at a desk? Is it quiet? Like they're looking at their computer, they're taking notes, or are they like smoking a cigarette on the corner of a 7-Eleven? I mean, and these are things that I've seen before. Like people are walking around, like walking through a supermarket, doing an interview. Like I want people who are going to take this as seriously as I do. That's important for me. So I think my corporate career prepared me really well for that sort of thing. And probably siloed me a bit too much to where I could have tried to dip my toe in other pools a bit in terms of onboarding, some of the more regulatory aspects of hiring that I really had to learn on the fly when I started hiring and I was doing all this, like I said, when I was like, I need to hire someone yesterday because there aren't enough hours in the day for me to work currently. So it really was like a hair on fire kind of moment where I'm like, okay, I need to learn an HR generalist's entire job in like the next 8 business days so that I can hire somebody. So that is definitely something where if someone is approaching this as a new business owner or they have more general HR experience than I did, they'll probably be much more comfortable with that than I was.
Yeah. I want to dig into how you manage and lead your team here in a minute. But while we're talking about these red flags and how you interview people, I would love if you could share some of the questions that you ask your potential team members in these interviews.
Sure. So it's tough because I have some basic ones that I like to jump off with, but I am really not a polished interviewer. I don't know if that comes across just through us talking, but I wing almost all of my interviews now. Like I will can like maybe 2 to 3 questions where I pull something from their resume. For example, so we're hiring right now. I'm looking for another pet sitter. I almost like right before this call, I checked our applicants, which I try and do each day. And I saw a resume that was in there that looked pretty good. It was someone who had previous pet sitting and walking experience, but none of it was independent. And it was for like 3 different organizations over the past year and a half. Which to me right there that was a non-starter. I'm like, I could interview this person, but we have a team already, I don't think it's the right fit. So that would be something where if I did interview that person, that would be the the first question I would ask. I would say, walk me through your recent experience with pet sitting. Like, tell me about company A. How did that go? Why did you leave? What challenges did you see there? And that's mostly what I'll operate on from a canned question perspective, is going through the resume, their experience. And just for pet sitting specifically, it's tell me about your experience with animals. And a general open-ended question like that will tell you so much about someone who wants to be a pet sitter, because the passion will just bleed off of them with that. Sort of like how we started this talk. Like you asked me about my experience, and like the first thing I want to talk about is I grew up with dogs. There have been moments in my life where I've been around dogs and I've just had like a conscious thought of, I think dogs are my favorite part of like being a living human. Like that is just, it is so awesome that like dogs exist. They're so cool. I love them so much. Like that's what I want to tap into. I want to have someone fall into that where it's just like pouring out of them. And that's almost instantly, like barring a really significant red flag, if I can feel that kind of passion coming out of them, that's the type of person that I want to hire, because that's the type of person who's not going to wake up when it's 30 degrees and it's pouring rain sideways and go, I'm going to call out today because this sucks. Like, I don't want to be out in the rain. That's the person that's going to be waking up and going, oh man, it's too bad. The weather sucks today. I guess I'll wear a raincoat. Let's go off and see some dogs.
Right.
Like that's a huge difference. I mean, that's a massive difference in how your company operates. And those sorts of people, in my experience, bring that passion to all of the dealings that they have with the rest of your team and with you. And most importantly, with the clients, human and four-legged. And that's really what it's about. But yeah, I think going back to your question, the key would be to get really just very few questions to open them up and get them talking about something they're passionate about, and then go from there. And you can trade stories back and forth. For us, I've hired a couple of people who have no pet handling experience. I wouldn't necessarily not do that in the future, but they have to really look good on paper and give me a good interview, because I find the interviews, the onboarding, and the training goes so much better when someone has at least like some volunteer experience. Or, I have one person who works for me who just fosters dogs, and she trains her own dog, and she's phenomenal. She's fantastic. One of my best pet sitters. And she was the one, when I hired her, I was like, okay, I don't need professional pet handling experience. I just need someone who really knows dogs beyond just, oh, I had a dog once when we were growing up for like 4 years, So tapping into that, I think, with a few questions that touch on their experience and things that you need clarity on in terms of any job changes, or if they've been unemployed for a while and they haven't had something, oh, tell me about that. Like, what have you been doing? That sort of thing. I try and root it into their own experience. The one thing I think you don't want to do is have like 10 bulleted questions and just robotically go from point to point, because that's going to come through on the interviewee side. They're going to feel that. It's going to feel really robotic, and that's what's going to feel corporate versus, you are potentially joining an organization who is really mission minded and cares about what they're doing, versus just, oh, we need some more help to balance an hours spreadsheet because we have too many people in full-time hours, or whatever it might be. So it's really, I would rather err on the side of really getting to know someone with a genuine conversation versus ticking a bunch of boxes or filling in some numbers or whatever it might be.
I totally agree. I could not agree more. All of my interviews when I hire for my team, if you were to be a fly on the wall, they do not look or feel or sound like an interview. They sound like just a normal chat over a cup of coffee. And I'm always looking for where their heart is, trying to figure out what their morals are. Because I can train anybody how to walk a dog or how to clean a litter box or do these other things. And you're not going to get to the heart of who they truly are and figure out their morals and all of these kinds of things by following a bullet point list of questions. You have to just get them talking about themselves and about what they're passionate about. And then, just the conversation will tell you everything that you need to know about them.
Yeah, totally. And that's something I've said to people too. Like, I can train you how to hold a leash, how to identify anxious dog body language. I can teach all that stuff. I don't mind teaching that. I can't teach a college kid who's looking for beer money how to care about taking care of someone's dog. That has to
Right.
come from within them. I can't train that into them. So that's really, I need that foundation to build on as a leader before I start to, tick the other training boxes and make sure that they can do the other things that we need them.
Totally, totally. Speaking of training, one thing that really stood out when I looked at your website is you have in big, bold, red letters, "We are the only pet care team in New Jersey carrying active certifications from Fear Free, Pet Sitters International, the American Red Cross, and LECA." You're going to have to tell me what that stands for. Tell me more about this. Tell me about how you lead your team, how you manage them, your training process. I'd love to just know more about all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is something where I'm very left-brained in my approach to training and organizing my business. And I've always been that way with my teams. I need structure, like hard foundational structure. And I can be very flexible with it, but I at least need like some numbers and some titles to have people flowing through. And to jump off, I'll let you know, LECA, LECA is Lifetime Enrichment for Companion Animals. It's a training school that's in Woodland Park, New Jersey. And I include them because I have such a high opinion of the work that they do. And we don't have any sort of partnership or anything with them. I've just gone there for training and I think they're incredible. They focus on working with anxious dogs and, the dogs that other people just probably would not touch that have aggression problems. And they've just done amazing work with my own dog who spent about a year on the street. He got hit by a car when we adopted him. He had a broken leg and he was so anxious around everybody to the point where we were like, we're just never going to be able to have people over. And we brought him to LECA for some leash manners training. And like that started it off. They do fantastic work. And I've referred some of my clients there. Again, we have no partnership with them. I don't get anything for recommending them. I just think they really kick ass and do a fantastic job. So I list them on the website because I feel like if clients are familiar with them, knowing that I've done training there will be something that they will value. They'll be like, okay, so he knows what he's doing because I value LECA that much. Yeah,
That's amazing.
they're great. I can't recommend them strongly enough. If someone has a dog that needs some help, they're wonderful. Woodland Park, New Jersey, which is just like 15 minutes from where Jon Loves Dogs is based. When I started this, I wanted to. A lot of this is in terms of how I organize the business and what sort of clientele I want to serve. And I wanted from the beginning us to be exceptional. And I know that sounds kind of like, of course, every business owner wants their business to do exceptional work, but I wanted us to be the best. And I still do. Like, I want to look at some of the other businesses and try and gauge how we're differentiating ourselves. And part of that is with training. So right away, I highlighted Fear Free as something that I wanted for myself, just for added training and how to approach anxious dogs. And a lot of that training came from my experience as a pet groomer, because every dog that comes into a grooming salon either hates you or is terrified of you. Like, there is no dog that comes into a grooming salon where the dryers are blowing and there's all this noise, dogs are barking in the back, and they don't come in and go, all right, time to get groomed, let's go, this is my favorite. It's not like a spa day for us humans. They come in and they're like, this is the scariest place I've ever been to in my life. So a lot of that right away was, I know what an anxious dog looks like, and I have had training in how to approach them from senior groomers who have been in the grooming game for, 20 plus years. But I don't have anything to put on my website aside from just saying, hey, I was a groomer and that's really hard, so you can trust me, which, of course he would say that. So I wanted to do Fear Free right away as part of animal handling training. And that was something I did right around the time that I started hiring my first team members. And I would say a significant amount of it I was already familiar with, but there were some things where it shored up some holes that I had just in my craft of being with dogs and being with cats that are expressing anxiety. And I've incorporated that specifically into my training regimen that I use with new pet sitters. And the bulk of that really is identifying when a dog is anxious. What is the body language that they're displaying to you? Are they licking their lips? Do they have one paw up, et cetera, et cetera? Are they retreating from you? How to let them approach you? Are they barking at you? Show them your back, drop some all this stuff is like day 1 and 2 for every new hire that I have comes from Fear Free and from Leka a bit as well. So that was something that I wanted. And the CPPS was more, that was something like selfishly for me. I wanted just a feather in my cap to say I'm among the best pet sitters that there are, not just in North Jersey, but in the country. So that was something I did that very recently. That was, I think, less than a month ago. I just did that in October where I took the CPPS exam and got that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That was huge. That was a goal I had when I first started the business. I was like, one day I want to do that. I think I could do it, but I need some more experience. So that was something that I really wanted to do. And as you know, PSI is fantastic and they're such a great influence in our industry. So those are things where most of that on the website is client facing. Like I want them to see, look at all these certifications we have. Like I look at the other companies that you're considering and see if they have that, because the cream of the crop has this and we know what we're doing. And this is how I train my people. So beyond just, I use Fear Free when I'm training people, we do have that worked into what I've devised as a seniority tier list to the people I hire. Again, I'm very new to pet sitting. So this is, you and I might talk a year from now and the whole thing might be different. I have no idea. But I try and put a threshold of hours on each tier of pet sitter that I employ. So the first tier, when I hire people in, I don't care how much experience they have in the past, they're a junior pet sitter, and that's up to 100 hours. So when I first hire someone, usually it's around 2 weeks, but it's not written in stone. It really depends on where they're at, and I see them in the field and what they're familiar with. Like, how do they hold a leash? Are they familiar with, if a dog perks up, like right away, I'm looking at what the dog is looking at. And I've had some new hires where they miss the signal completely. So I'm like, okay, you need some training on dog body language. That's like the first 2 weeks. And we lean very heavy on shadowing. So I do a ton of shadowing with new people for about that first 2 weeks. I'm with them every single time they're in the field, like all day long, no matter what they have. I'm introducing them to dogs, doing little corrective things on leash handling and how to enter the home, making sure that they are being secure with the home, even service standard things like how many photos to take. When do you take a video? If a dog is very anxious, you can take fewer photos because you want to be laser focused on what they are looking at and how they're reacting. And I've had some people that I've hired who I spend like 3 days with them and I'm like, you could probably teach me like as much as I could teach you. You're really good already. So I don't mind cutting those people loose a little bit sooner once I see that they're skilled, but it's still keeping very close to them up to that 100-hour mark. So what I will do is I will have one shadowing session per week with all of my junior pet sitters where I will meet them in the field, just check in with them. A lot of it's conversational. It's just, hey, how you doing? Like, how are the hours? Are you feeling okay? Like, what questions do you have? What do you need? Do you need supplies? Have you had an issue with a dog, et cetera, et cetera? And again, I've waived that period with only one person that I've hired who has so much experience. Her name's Jess, and she's phenomenal. She's had a whole bunch of pet care experience where she's been a GM at a doggy daycare, and she's been doing her own independent pet sitting gig for like almost 10 years now. So she was one where I was watching her work and I'm like, there's not too much. Like I got to get you familiar with Time to Pet and our service standards and our clients. And then you're kind of good to go. Like, you know what you're doing. So I waived the period for her. She got to around like 70, 75 hours. And I'm like, I'm just going to bump you up to pet sitter right now because you don't need much more training from me. And when they bump up into that next tier, they get a pay raise and I go a little bit more hands off to where I will shadow them now once a month. And it's more, rather than shadowing, it's more like a check-in. It's like, hey, how you doing? We get face to face. I hang out with them for a little bit. Most of the time it's just BSing. Like we're just joking around. Like, oh, I was with so-and-so dog the other day and like he pooped on a tree and it was the funniest thing. It's that kind of thing. And another thing that I'll work into that as well is we do monthly report cards for our junior pet sitters. So up to that 100-hour mark, it will be a uniform, just one-page document, PDF that says, like, here are your strengths, here are things you need to work on, here are your next steps, and here's how many hours you're at and how much further you have to go until you hit the next tier. And I find that that's oftentimes a gentler way of correcting behavior that is I wouldn't say problematic. Like if anything is problematic or really needs correction, that's something that I will nip right in the bud and, just call them or meet them in the field to work through. That's more like, try and make sure you're polished up on your visit timing. You've been going to 33, 34 minutes. Just keep an eye on the clock. Make sure you're coming around 30 minutes for a 30-minute visit, that sort of thing. Because I tend to find that if you're whatever your team uses to communicate, Slack or Google Chat or whatever it is, if you're just always in their ear, like, hey, you were 34 minutes on this visit, make sure you're closer to 30. Hey, you didn't put the leash in the right, then it just starts to drone on like kind of boss speak. I try and use the report cards for the little things like that need polishing or maybe a little bit of work, but aren't necessarily urgent because, if someone is trying to think of knock on wood again, we've been pretty good. I haven't had too many really big issue employees where I'm like, okay, I need to broach this right away because this is an issue. We've been pretty good, but if it's something like, they're way too late or like forgetting to do like forgetting to feed a dog or something during a dog walking visit, something like that, that's probably a phone call where it's like, hey, I need you to head back, like make sure that you're reading the notes for the appointment beforehand. So I guess a lot of the leadership with the newer hires comes into knowing where to draw that fine line of like, is this a phone call and an immediate addressing, or is it something that I'm going to take a note on and pop into the report card? And for the report cards too, I always try and balance that stuff out with positives. Like people always, it's very rare that I hire someone and I'm like, wow, this person is a freaking train wreck. Okay, we need like we need a performance improvement plan. I have to go back to shadowing them. So far, luckily, that has only happened one time for me and has not happened since then. So that's kind of how we try and structure it. And I have a bunch of people at the standard pet sitter level now, which is monthly shadowing, quarterly report cards, kind of just chatting with them. One thing I always try and do is whenever someone finishes a shift for me, I try and this is probably more annoying than anything, but I feel like they deserve it. I try and just send them we use Google. So I send them a Google chat and I just say like, hey, Jess, thank you so much for the work today. Really appreciate it. Like if you need anything, let me know. And I type that out every time. Like it's not copy and paste because I feel like they deserve that. Like I really am genuinely appreciative of them helping out because I remember where I was at before I had them and I was working, like we said, 130 hours a week, just burning the candle at both ends, losing my mind. So I really do appreciate the team. And that's the general structure. So to work it back to the certifications, once they hit 1,000 hours, so from 100 to 1,000 hours, at least that's the threshold I have currently, subject to change once we hit it, I will promote them to senior, like a senior pet sitter. And that's another bump in pay rate. And I will send them to LECA to receive CPR and first aid training, and the company will pay for that if they don't have it already.
Wow.
So
I love that you do that.
That's important to me because that's it's like having a plunger in your bathroom, right? Like if you could go decades without having a plunger in your bathroom, but when you need a plunger in your bathroom, like you need a plunger right now and stuff is about to, like the shit is literally going to hit the fan if you don't have that plunger. And that's basically what that CPR and first aid is. Like, God forbid you ever have to use it, but when you have to use it, like it's very important to know how to tourniquet and stop a bleed. And it's not easy, but it's pretty simple to just go and learn how to do that and do it in person. And LECA offers that. They have I just recently did it myself, and they have a guy that comes in. I believe his company is called Paws and Claws 911, and he's based in Long Island, so he's up here in the Northeast. And he will go through and show how to make like a makeshift tourniquet, how to identify if a dog is choking, how to clear the airway, make a makeshift muzzle if you need that to work on a dog. And then finally, the pet CPR, he'll go through that as well. And I think that is super important. And that's part of just investing back in the team too, and making sure that they feel like there's a progression, that there's like a game theory aspect to it. I don't want them to come in and ever feel like they're doing 1099 work, even if they are W-2. Like I want them to feel like they're part of a team and they're able to grow if they want to grow, if that's what they want. A lot of people are just like, I just want to do this on the weekends, and I'm cool with that as well. If that's something that's important to them, that's fine by me. But if they want that extra bit of growth and opportunity, then that's something that's important to me to provide as well. And as far as the tiers, the last tier is what I call master pet sitter, which I need to work on the compensation for that. I haven't fully decided on what that's going to be. If it's going to be like a little bit of a pay bump just in hourly rate, or if it could potentially be like getting part of the service cost, like a 5 or 10% piece of that, or whatever it is. But one thing I know I want to offer for master, I'm setting that tier right now at 3,000 hours. So that's, someone who's been with me for years and is still working. That's something where I'm like, okay, I should probably invest in fear free for them at that point. And that's, it's a much bigger cost. But at that point, if they've been working for me for 3,000 hours in the field, they've probably generated more than enough to warrant that expenditure. And I think at that point, that's going to round out any training holes that they might still have from hours in the field and from myself and our other senior team members training them. So that's kind of the final step. CPPS for me is a lot of that, as I'm sure you're aware, is business focused, like business decisions, how you're structuring your services, how you're dealing with clients. That could be something that I look at in the future if I hire like someone to be a GM or an ops manager or something. But at this point, that's probably years down the road. So I haven't really considered that much yet. But I mean, that's, like I said, very left brain, numbers of hours. I try and have that structure there for them to shoot for it if they want to shoot for it. And if not, that's totally fine. If they don't care, if they just want to go walk dogs and get better at handling dogs and cats, I am totally cool with that. That's fine by me.
Man, you have an incredible structure already. It's wild to me that you've only been doing this a year because our structures are so similar. I've been doing this 11 years, and you said I may talk to you in a year and this could all be different. I don't think it's going to be very different. I mean, I'm fear-free certified myself, and I teach all of our team members fear-free protocols. I do a ton of shadow training visits, just like you said. My operations manager does a lot of those for our team now at this point. But even with like the monthly report cards, I'm going to steal that idea from you. I wrote it down in my notebook as you were talking here. Is we do monthly check-in calls, and we have a spreadsheet for each team member where if they ever get praise from a client or we see that they did something really well and maybe the client didn't notice it, we mark those things down as well as the things that they could use some improvement on. And then we call them the first week of every month and we just say, hey, how you doing? What do you need? And we kind of go through these line items that are on the spreadsheet, but we don't have like an actual report card. It's just a phone call based off of the notes on the spreadsheet. So I'm going to steal the report card idea from you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to do that. I could even email you a copy of, one recent report card that I've written.
I would love that.
That's another thing I try and do too, is to work in, it reminded me when you mentioned this. So we use the time to pet feedback reports at the end of each visit. And what I will do is I have a quarterly team meeting, which it sounds so, I need to find a different name for that because it sounds so corporate when I call it a quarterly team meeting. But essentially all it is just the field team gets together. Thus far, it's been a virtual call. Eventually, I'd like to do it in real life, at a restaurant or something. But thus far, it's been a virtual call. We just kind of get together. I relay some updates. And then what I do is I try and give out like 3 to 4 awards per quarter. And one of them is always like the team MVP, like the person who's stepping up, taking late notice shifts, helping out when we need them to help out, working holidays, et cetera, et cetera. And that's always just a flat cash bonus because that to me is the most straightforward one. But then I'm trying to work in a lot of goofy ones. Like the last quarter, we had a team chatterbox. So that was just like the first person to reply to every Google chat message and is always texting the team and like making jokes. And we just gave like a gift card to a coffee shop. Like, here you go chat up some strangers. And the one that I'm going to do next quarter in January when we have it is the person who gets the most positive reviews from the clients through the time to pet service, the post-visit report. So that was something that you reminded me of. And that's something that's super fun. And I think people generally, my team members love that recognition. There's always the oddball who's like, I don't mention my name, don't look at me. I want to work with the dogs and not be bothered. But generally, I think people really appreciate highlighting their efforts that they're making to work with the animals and the clients and, help. So if someone is sick, jump in and help out by taking their shifts. And that sort of public recognition is, it's free. Shout it out in your Slacks, your Google chats, your Discord, whatever you use. Just shout someone out for doing a good job. Like so and so went above and beyond today. You know, Bruce the bulldog pooped all over the couch, and they stayed for like an extra half hour to shampoo the couch, whatever it is. Like people love identifying them going above and beyond. And for us as business owners, it's free. You know, we can just do that just by being mindful and appreciative of our people. And that's something I've always tried to do, to pass that on and let them know how thankful I am that they care as much as I do about the work that we're doing.
So true. So true. We do awards for our team as well. And I can send you my list, but we have a couple funny ones like best cuddler. And that goes to whoever did like the most
That's a good one.
overnights for that quarter. And we have high stepper, and that's whoever did the most dog walks for the quarter. And, some little things like that. And it's really fun.
I did one like that as well for most dog walks, and the reward for that one was a foot massage at a pedicure place, because I'm like, your feet
Yes.
have to be barking at this point, no pun intended. So go get a foot rub, rest those things, and we'll see you back next week.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, as we wrap up here, John, do you have any other just little pieces of advice, any other tips or tricks that you could share with all of our listeners at home on how they can hire and grow their pet care team?
Yeah, I think so. I'll share a couple. The first one, which is pretty straightforward, and it seems like bad advice, but hire people that you like. Like it seems
Yes.
like, oh no, that's too simple, or like I shouldn't do that. That's being a favoritist. But no, hire people that you want to work with, because I generally find that the clients that stick with me the longest are the ones that I really get along with well and vibe with well. And if you get along with your team, they're also going to get along with those clients and be liked by those clients. When I was an agency recruiter, I would always get our hiring managers that we were working for who would say, I'm looking for someone kind of like me. And I'm like, now I'm that person. I'm like, I'm looking for someone kind of like me who I can like talk on the same level with and vibe with. So that's a big aspect of hiring for me. And I think that would probably be something I suggest. And the last
Totally
thing,
agree.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's part of building your culture, I think, too. Like you want to have an identity. It's better to risk saying something to someone than to say nothing to anybody. So you may as well just be genuine and build that culture. And another one is more philosophical for me, and it's don't be afraid to make decisions based on your mission. And I guess that kind of sounds common sense as well. I read a book recently. It's Walter Isaacson's Elon Musk biography, and I came away
Yeah.
from reading that with two things. The first was, this guy's a horrible leader, and I have no idea why anyone would want to work for him. It was just like, I don't see how he inspires anybody. But as I continued through the book, I realized that he at least appears to me to be so laser focused on his mission that dictates every decision that he makes. And it's so important and all encompassing to him. And I started to realize that that's, I believe at least, why people are galvanized to work for him with his companies. I think they identify with that mission, and it's just as important to them as it appears to be to him. And so that can be a really powerful motivator. And that's something that I try and keep in mind as well. My mission is really at the heart of what I'm doing. I have a page right on our website that's like an essay, just here's our mission. This is why we do what we do. And it basically boils down to just the enrichment of companion animals, really is what it is. And so that's what's most important to me. That guides all of my decisions. I want to enrich the lives of the pets that we're serving. I want to treat my workers with respect and make sure that they have adequate work-life balance and that they're not burning themselves out. And I want to serve our clients as well as we possibly can. And those are like the three pillars of what I consider when I'm trying to make a difficult decision. It's, okay, does this serve the pet? Does it help them? Am I keeping my workers' quality of life in mind and their experience in mind? And am I helping our clients? And if the answer to all three of those is no, then we're probably not going to do whatever the question is. So those are kind of the two-prong things that I would leave on. Just hire cool people and stick to your mission. I mean, it sounds so simple, but then you get in the weeds of it and you get that laser focus zoomed in on these individual issues, and you can sometimes lose touch with that. So I think that's the thing that's most important to remember as you're going through growing your business and adding either more team members or your first team member.
So true. So true. Jon, I agree with everything that you said today. This was such an incredible conversation. I think that is a really great point for us to wrap up on. Tell everybody how they can learn more about you, learn more about your business, Jon Loves Dogs, and get in contact with you.
Sure thing. So it's jonlovesdogs.com, J with no H on the hoodie right there. That's our website. You can see our mission on there. I have little blurbs for our team members as well. A shout out to our team members, Alyssa, George, Jess, Will, Mel. I love you guys. You guys are the best. And you can also find me on Instagram, mostly sharing meme stories about dogs. And that's Jon Loves Dogs, LLC, all one word, no dots or
Incredible. I'll put all of your links down in the description below so people can reach out and learn more about you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today. This was really incredible.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Doug.
All right. For everyone at home, my name's Doug the Dog Guy. This is the Pet Business Hiring Podcast. That was Jon Eckrich, and we are reminding you to stay positive.